Today, I'm going to be discussing craniosacral therapy for back pain. By the end of this, I would like to convey that the approach for craniosacral therapy is largely pseudoscientific. There are numerous claims with little research to support the plausibility. I would also like to convey that craniosacral therapy is implausible as the research does not support the actual mechanism behind the therapy. Also, I would like to show that there's no actual evidence to support the effectiveness of craniosacral therapy. As I stated before, because the actual mechanism itself is implausible as well. What is craniosacral therapy? Craniosacral therapy is a treatment session done for up to an hour. It's the use of a subtle touch to find and treat restrictions in the craniosacral system. Craniosacral system consists of membranes and cerebrospinal fluid that surround and protect the brain and spinal cord. The claims of craniosacral therapy are that stress and trauma cause restrictions in the system, which affect other parts of the body. The restrictions in the system are said to be felt in the rhythm of the craniosacral system, otherwise referred to as the craniosacral rate, craniosacral motion, craniosacral rhythm. It's said that you can detect irregularities in this craniosacral rate and then manipulate them using the subtle touch in order to release the restrictions and treat the back pain. The use of craniosacral therapy enhances the patient's natural healing mechanisms, which again improves other parts of the body, such as your back. A little background information on craniosacral therapy was actually discovered by, or different portions of craniosacral therapy, the important aspects of it were discovered by two different osteopathic doctors. One of the major foundations of craniosacral therapy is that the skull bones are actually mobile or said to be mobile, which was discovered by William Sutherland. He said that the skull bones can be delicately manipulated in order to treat illness using the craniosacral therapy, which this mobility would allow for manipulation in that cerebrospinal fluid or that craniosacral rate in order to adjust the imbalance. John Upledger is another osteopathic doctor who discovered the actual craniosacral rate. He was performing a surgery, and he discovered this rhythm in the craniosacral system while he was performing the surgery. This, like I stated earlier, this rhythm and this craniosacral rate is what's assessed by the clinician performing craniosacral therapy. And these two things between this rate and the skull bones being a little bit mobile are what make up the major portions of craniosacral therapy and how it works. The tricky thing about craniosacral therapy is that it's actually used by a lot of medical professionals, such as, physical therapists, osteopaths, chiropractors, massage therapists also use it as well. Craniosacral therapy, in addition to treating back pain, it aims or is said to be able to treat various pains and diseases such as disorders in newborns, migraines, difficulties in motor coordination, um, stress and tension problems, like I said earlier, are what restrict that craniosacral system. So overall, it makes claims like to treat many different parts of your body. The effectiveness of craniosacral therapy. So there was a study performed regarding the benefits of craniosacral therapy on lower back pain specifically. So it was a single-blinded randomized controlled trial involving 64 people with chronic lower back pain. They were randomly assigned to experimental groups. Group 1 had 10 sessions of craniosacral therapy. Group 2 had 10 sessions of classic massage therapy. Results of this was that there was no significant difference between the people that received craniosacral therapy versus the people that received the classic massage. Overall, everyone in the experiment reported improvement in pain. They all experienced better systolic blood pressure. Their hemoglobin, oxygen saturation rates went up, but there was just no statistically significant differences between the two groups. Therefore, there was no support, no proof that craniosacral therapy is more effective than classic massage therapy. Another study regarding the effectiveness of craniosacral therapy was revolved around the palpation of the craniosacral rate itself. So there were two examiners, a physical therapist and a registered nurse. They were told to measure the craniosacral rate on the same patients. Both of the examiners wound up measuring totally different rates. While one examiner would experience no craniosacral rate, the other one would be measuring simultaneously some sort of craniosacral rate. The actual craniosacral rate was measured using the activation of a foot switch, and it was kept blind because it was kept silent. So each examiner wouldn't be able to tell when they were pressing on this foot pedal to determine if they were feeling some sort of craniosacral rate. Since both of these examiners would be simultaneously measuring completely different rates, it was clear that, they were both measuring completely different phenomena, which in turn would mean that they were probably measuring something that doesn't exist, which, again, the results did not support this theory that the craniosacral rhythm exists. Therefore, it doesn't support the effectiveness of craniosacral therapy. Like I stated, there's no real research to support the effectiveness of craniosacral therapy. An article by Green et al. Found that the available research regarding craniosacral therapy had low-grade evidence, and most of them had inadequate protocols, meaning that the studies actually were not scientific studies. There's also no evidence to support this skull bone mobility that I spoke of that was supposedly discovered by William Sutherland. He specified the sphenoid and occipital bones to be the most important bones that would have that mobility in order to be manipulated to make craniosacral therapy successful. There was actually research says that these two bones are actually completely fused between the ages of 12 and 19. Therefore, these claims of the skull bone mobility lack scientific support altogether. Now into the pseudoscience. So a major component of a lot of the craniosacral therapy websites were empty language. Lots of empty language throughout all of them. Basically, the definition of empty language is meaningless language that says nothing. So in these various websites, a lot of them refer to energies or whole body treatments, and their craniosacral rate being out of balance. So the craniosacral therapy is supposed to adjust that balance and treat your entire body. Basically, just saying a lot of things that mean nothing. Here's an example from a the Auckland Craniosacral website. So, like I've circled here, they discuss how craniosacral therapists, treat your entire body, and that it just doesn't, specify to one place, and that it releases trauma from your tissues, and that it just, is very gentle with no manipulation, just a lot of empty language and even some false promises in here as well. Again, another major thing throughout most of these craniosacral therapy websites are the use of personal experiences and testimonials to legitimize their claims. Like we all know, reliance on personal experience is some of the worst things to back up a claim, because there's no way to prove individual people's experience with a therapy, especially a lot of them experience a placebo effect. This is an example again from the Auckland Craniosacral Therapy website, someone talking about how they had back pain, and miraculously within 2 hours after their craniosacral therapy session, they were feeling better and they could get off of the painkillers that they were taking. Just sounds a little placebo effect to me. And again, there's just no way to prove or back up this person's claims scientifically. Another example from the same website with someone specifically referencing back pain again. Just more placebo effect type language, talking about how, this was the only thing that helped them. But again, there's no way to prove legitimacy of someone's personal experience. Another major theme throughout craniosacral therapy websites there's a lot of inconsistencies and leaps of logic. For example, there's a lot of contradicting statements regarding, craniosacral therapy being this cure. But then in the same breath, a lot of the craniosacral therapists say that your body is self-correcting and it heals itself. But if your body is a self-correcting mechanism, then why does it need craniosacral therapy to enhance its healing if it heals itself? It's just kind of very contradictory, and like I said, a total leap of logic that kind of makes it largely pseudoscientific. Tricky thing about craniosacral therapy, like I stated earlier, is that it is performed by a lot of medical professionals. So it does have a very strong outward appearance of scientific legitimacy. The definition of scientific legitimacy is looking scientific with no real data. I will show you examples in my next slide of, just a lot of scientific, looking pictures, sounding words, and a lot of mentions of clinical studies, just that don't really have any proof to them, or they aren't necessarily legitimate scientific studies. Here's an example from actually John Upledger's craniosacral therapy website. So this is from one of the founders, or the person that just one of the people that discovered craniosacral therapy. So as you can see, there's a picture in the corner, just him looking like a doctor, very scientific picture. And then the funny thing about this website is he actually has an entire article database built within his website. So this obviously appears very scientific, considering it's a database. When you're learning about science, you always learn that legitimate information comes from scientific databases. But in reality, this database was actually curated by John Upledger. So you can't necessarily believe everything or any of the articles that are compiled into this database, because he handpicked them and put this database inserted into his website. So this is a large outward appearance of scientific legitimacy. Plausibility. So, like I stated earlier, how does craniosacral therapy work? It detects the tension surrounding your brain and your spinal cord via that craniosacral rate or rhythm. The discrepancies or the irregularities in the rate are supposed to be detected by the clinician, and then using those soft touch techniques, it's supposed to release those restrictions and allow for healing of your lower back or any part of your back. Like I stated again, it enhances the body's ability to heal itself. How does the plausibility actually compare to the scientific knowledge that was found? Craniosacral system is said to have restrictions caused by tension. Now, like I stated earlier, these restrictions are felt through this craniosacral rate, which was found in research study that it doesn't even appear to be plausibly something that can be plausibly felt or measured, which again, it appeared that it might not even exist. So it doesn't really stack up to the actual scientific knowledge. Again, normalizing the imbalance of your entire body. Not very plausible. Again, there's no way to test the effectiveness of these soft touch techniques that are used in the craniosacral therapy to relieve the tension, which would relieve the pain in your back. Therefore, craniosacral therapy lacks plausibility. Conclusions. Overall, the technique of craniosacral therapy is very largely pseudoscientific. There's no way to prove the effectiveness of it because a lot of the information regarding its success comes from people's personal experiences, which are unreliable. There's no evidence supporting the actual mechanism of craniosacral therapy. There's actually a lot of research directly disproving a lot of the actually the major components of craniosacral therapy and what makes it effective. Again, the plausibility is superficial. It's very implausible. There's no way to prove that it works. There's all the research that was found is directly disproving, for the most part, the effectiveness of the treatment and the actual mechanism of the therapy. None of it corresponds with actual scientific data. And again, the effectiveness, there's just no real proof behind it. If you can't back up the mechanism, there's really no way to back up the effectiveness of it either. Especially with the studies that were conducted, there was no way to scientifically support the effectiveness of mostly any portion of this craniosacral therapy. Therefore, it is largely pseudoscientific. And like I said, most of the effectiveness, people experience the placebo effect. As far as the personal experience goes, there's no way to prove it. So again, largely pseudoscientific. And these are the primary sources used and the secondary sources used.